Howdy. Happy Sunday, my friends and family. Good to be here with you guys on this lovely, lovely, lovely day. I'm Jamil Damji, and thank you for joining me for another fun mindset conversation. Today, the topic will be energizing your life and actions. So, if you've ever had a moment or a season in your life where you have felt a lack of energy, a lack of that inner resolve to push through difficult things, to overcome obstacles, to do some of the work or all of the work that is required of you in order to get to your desires, then this will be a very, very interesting conversation for us to have. And I hope that through this, you will be able to pick up some techniques and also give you some insight into some of the pivots and ways that as you continue on and progress in your world and in your life and trying to get to the highest and best potential version of you that can exist in this lifetime, that you understand this is going to be a dynamic approach, that things are definitely going to change. You are going to change. All of the things that we're going to talk about today will change and evolve as you go along. And I'm going to give you some examples of that so that you're aware and not disappointed when things actually do make themselves different than what you might have expected. So before we get into that, I love giving people just a quick minute here to populate in the stream. So I would love us to get started off by just having you list out in the chat one thing today that you woke up and felt grateful for. So what was one thing that you woke up today and felt grateful for? For me, I woke up and felt grateful for the pets that I have in my home. Although I am feeling like somewhat of a professional dog walker at the moment, I truly, truly, truly love the just feeling that I have when I get to sit down and cuddle with my puppies, when I get to pet my kitty cats, and just be a part of the world with these creatures. They're so fun. They're so fulfilling for me. And I really enjoy what I get out of those relationships, even though they kind of feel one-sided because I'm doing most of the work. But they definitely do reciprocate in love and licks. And so those are that's a fun thing for me. So let me hear from you guys what you are grateful for, and I'll just read some of that out. And some of you might feel resonance with the things that people are writing in here, so that's great. Majestic writes, my kids. Jenny said, my family. Belisario says, family as well. And Yvette says, for the love all around you. Yes, you have so much love there. Judith said, sufficient sleep. Oh my goodness. What a beautiful thing. Yeah, sleep has been great. Pansy, hi Pansy. She said, milder weather. Absolutely. GMM said, grateful for mindsets with Jamil on Sunday. Thank you. That is super kind of you to say, and I appreciate it. Suban said, grateful for my family, safe and healthy. Yes. Howard writes, my family, even though we have our problems, I love them. Yes, yes. They'll always be love, even when things are difficult. My health and playing music in the worship team, wonderful. Michael says, me, my wife, and my children's health, of course. Ben writes, my health and my family, amazing. Michael says that I'm alive. Absolutely, absolutely. Sarah says, my heart, I believe. Yes, our hearts are incredibly important, and I'm grateful for mine as well. Robert says, friends in different parts of the world. Yes, of course. Hi, Sharon. Love and licks. Yes, I get tons of those. That's my animal life story right now. Shanna says, hi, Jamil. Hello. Idea said, for everything and everyone. What a beautiful thing. Melina said, grateful that I wake up every day and I'm able to tackle whatever comes my way and I'm able to work for a living, I would imagine it said. And Melina also says, a better future for my family. Amazing. Thank you guys for sharing that. I love hearing those bits of gratitude. I wake up every day and I write down in a journal three things that I'm grateful for. And it is such a rewarding practice. You should definitely do it. All right. So energizing your life and energizing your actions. For anyone who's ever felt deflated, who has ever been in that stage of, I don't feel like it. I don't feel like it. If you've ever felt that sensation where you knew there was something that needed to get done and you had the ability and the skills and the capacity to do it, but you said or felt, I don't feel like doing this, and then didn't do it. If that's ever been something that you have experienced, then put an X in the chat. I will start it off by putting an X in the chat for myself, because I absolutely don't feel like doing things sometimes. And it's a very real thing, right? It's absolutely normal to have that thought, to, then experience the physical representation of that thought, which is just lethargy and a lack of motivation or energy to drive to kind of push through the thing that's difficult. And a lot of us can get stuck in that sensation of, I don't feel like it. I don't feel like it. And much of what we do in our world and in our lives is on the other side of, I don't feel like it. Because anything good will typically be hard. And typically things that are hard, we don't feel like doing because they expend energy, and our brains are hardwired to teach us or to reward us for conserving energy, right? That's how we are built. And guys, this is not just you and not a human thing. This is through hundreds of millions of years of evolution and hundreds of millions of years of pathways that have been successful on this planet, that conservation of energy is a necessity for survival. And so you are not broken because that is something you feel. You are just very much a product of all of this that came before you, and you were really just doing what you were designed to do. So please don't ever feel like there's something wrong with you for feeling that way, because that is absolutely a normal thing. All right. I'm going to give you 5 steps here, and these five steps, or these 5 processes, will give you an opportunity and some insights into ways that you can energize your life and your action. And the first of these is finding your aim. All right, finding your aim, and this is really an important thing, and it might sound very common sense to some of you watching this right now. Like, of course, Jamil, finding my aim, I know where I'm aiming, but do you really, right? Do you really know where you're aiming? And it takes a tremendous amount of self-inquiry and awareness to be able to really, truly determine what the aim is, right? For instance, for me, I had an aim very young, and, anyone who knows me, anyone who has grown up with me, if you ask people from my childhood friends, what was Jamil like when he was a kid? And they'll all tell you that that boy had his eyes on money. Straight up. They will 100% tell you that this guy had his eyes on money. He was aiming at financial security. He was aiming at money from the time that we could even, start speaking about this stuff, right? And so that was always my aim, and it makes sense for me, right? Why did I have that as a priority? Why was my aim towards financial security, financial freedom? It had a lot to do with the things that I was seeing in my life and seeing in my world. And so I need you guys to know that our aims are going to be different. Your aim is going to be different from mine and from the people beside you, maybe watching this, and anyone in the chat. You guys might all have different aims, which is completely normal. Mine is a product of the environment that I grew up in. I grew up in a life and in a childhood with a lot of financial insecurity. And I saw the reason for many things going wrong in people's lives being a lack of money, right? Anytime my parents would get into an argument, it was because there was a lack of money, and they were arguing over resources and how those resources were going to get used. When there was something that my sister or I did wrong as children, for instance, I get into a little bit of a car crash, it would be World War III in my household. My dad would lose his mind because it was going to cost us money to have to fix that problem, right? And we didn't have a lot of it. And so it was really difficult for him and for me and for my mom and for all of us to kind of get through that, because that financial insecurity was such a huge part of our life. And then when I looked around at the world outside of me, my home was super safe. I had a beautiful, and continue to have a beautiful, safe environment. My mom is very loving. My dad is very loving. My sister, extremely loving. I have beautiful people in my life. Nothing to say negative about that at all. But the reality is that the people outside in my community were definitely expressing and showing to me how financial insecurity could be life-threatening. And I would see people getting robbed, and I would see people getting murdered. And this was just, I know you could be like, he grew up in Canada. People don't get murdered in Canada. They absolutely do. They absolutely do. And it was happening all the time, right? All of this financial insecurity was causing people to do things that were outside of rational thought, outside of how civilized people would typically live. And because I saw that when you didn't have money, that you were in a threatening situation, right? You could get a divorce, you could get killed, you could get robbed. All these things were something that was a real threat for a lack of financial resources. I made my aim having that situation or having that problem be gone in my life, right? So my aim was always to make money. And again, I felt if I accomplished this, that everything else in my life would fall into place. I can now say to you that that's not true, okay? Because as I've become a man and 46 years old, I can tell you that money is not the end all and be all. It was definitely an amazing resource, and it's been an amazing resource for me in my life. But it's not it's not now my current aim, right? I have had to change my aim because I've evolved. I hit my target at one point, and now I have a new target. And I want to kind of tell you how this even plays out in other aspects or other things in our life or in the universe. And I got this story from watching Jordan Peterson and Tony Robbins have a conversation, and they were speaking about a hive of bees, right? Now, what ends up happening when a bee goes out and it finds a luscious, hyperpollinated flower bed that is not really having a lot of competition around it. There's not like other bees or other threats or predators or things that could potentially be dangerous for the bee. They will, of course, go and do the thing they need to do, which is collect pollen, but then they will go back to the hive and they do something really interesting. They dance. They dance and they expend so much energy in this dance that you're questioning, why would they be doing that? Now, the dance is actually a story, right? They're telling a story of what they found, where it was, how rich it was, how others in the hive could go and get it as well. And they're almost putting themselves at a risk of dying. They're expending so much calories, so much energy in this dance. But they do it because they know that the betterment of the entire hive, the betterment of the queen, the betterment of their job in this world is that if more of them find this flower bed and go and collect the pollen, that there will be a greater likelihood of this hive surviving and multiplying and continuing to do the things that bees do. And so just like if we think about the parallel, right? Okay, so I became successful in wholesaling real estate. I learned strategies and techniques and things to do that can make you successful in wholesale real estate as well. I spend 2 decades applying these things and becoming successful at this business model. I then turn around and I start sharing or dancing, if you will, my dance for the greater good of the hive, right? For the people that are around me. Those of you watching my YouTube channel for comping or finding buyers or getting deals, whatever it is, whatever you're tuning in for, if it's real estate related, that's my dance. That's the dance I'm doing, the way that bees do their dance. That's my dance for you. I'm sharing with you. Here's where the pollen is. This is this great flower bed. You can get deals here. You can, make money this way. This is how you can do it over and over again. So that same dance, that thing that the bee is doing is what I'm doing when I do my job, when I come out here and I entertain and I perform and I teach in this framework. Pace Morby's doing the same thing, right? He goes out and he learns about this incredible resource and tool of creative finance and how from when he really was put in a situation where somebody bankrupted him was able to pull his entire family out of a bad spot and create for himself millions of dollars in holdings and cash flow. And then he goes out and he does his big dance, right? He does his dance for the community so that he can also signal to the rest of the bees in his hive where they can find the pollen, what it's going to be, what the predators are, where the dangers, all of the things. And he's expending a tremendous amount of energy in the process of doing it, right? And we see this guy has stood up and done 25, 26-hour live streams doing his dance, sharing his capacity and depleting his energy for the betterment of everybody outside of him, right? And that's a beautiful and cool thing. But again, we're hardwired to do this, right? Because if you think about it, the bee's not thinking about, well, I'm going to get all these likes on YouTube and Instagram, and I'm going to feel super accomplished and good about myself. No, it's hardwired to share. It's hardwired to impact and affect others, even at the level of the bee. The bee does it because it wants the betterment of the hive. I do it because I want the betterment of the community. I want people to do well. Pace does it for the exact same reasons. He wants to build this beautiful community, and he wants to watch people succeed and do amazing things in their lives, and then be able to go and impact their families and have wonderful, wonderful homes and resources and vehicles and all of the things, right? So we do the thing that we do. All right, number 2. And I hope that was relatable for you guys enough to understand that this is how it is like wired into our system, right? So this way of energizing yourself, this thing that we do, right? Finding our aim is necessary in order for us to have that energy to get out there and do the damn thing. Okay. Now, step number two is determine your reasons why, right? And I'm sure this is like a cliched thing we've seen on, Instagram posts and other influencers and things, all those like beautiful Les Brown, inspirational quotes that we can listen to in those short reels. They're great, right? Like find your why, find your why, find your why. Okay, beautiful. Let's talk about that for a minute, right? So one of my whys in becoming successful in real estate and making money was so that I could retire my mom and dad. Right. I really wanted to have an opportunity to give my mom and dad a break because I saw how hard they worked. Right. I also wanted to be able to donate money for causes that I really support and care about. Right. And so for me, I kept looking for and seeing my why, and it will typically be external. Here's a reason for it. I think about what I'll do for myself versus what I will do for someone I love, right? And many of you guys will relate to this because, for a good portion of us nice and good human beings, this is how we're wired. And for any of you who are parents, you'll completely understand what I'm talking about here. I will do for my child and for my mom and dad 10 times more than what I will do for me. For instance, could be late at night, or I haven't eaten yet, and I know that I could get out of my house and go somewhere and bring something healthy back home to eat, and it would be better for me to expend the energy to do the harder thing, or I could like cook for myself. I could get fresh vegetables and fresh ingredients and cook a meal for myself, even though I'm exhausted. And typically, I won't choose that for me. If it's for me, what I'll typically do is the easier thing, right? The thing that's probably not as healthy, not as good, not the best choice. Why? Not because I don't love myself. I absolutely do love myself, but I love them more. I do. I love my kids so much. I love my mom and dad so much. I want to be kind to them. I want to be helpful to them. And so regardless of what I'm experiencing in my energy levels or in my day, if somebody I love wants me to do something for them or needs me to do something for them, I show up. I will show up for them 100 times more often than I will for myself. If that's you, then just write me in the chat so that I can understand and see who the audience is here today. If you tend to do and show up for others more than you do and show up for yourself, then let me see who you are and identify yourself so that I know that I've got others like me here. All right. So it looks to me that the majority of you are this way, which absolutely makes a ton of sense, right? And it's great. It's beautiful. I also want to share with you guys why we're going to be let down in this, and it's hard. It's this is going to be a hard story, and I'm not trying to discourage you guys from having these beautiful anchors outside of yourself to hold on to and to want to do things for and to want to show up for and live for. But I'm gonna share with you the reality of what I've understood. Okay, so for myself, right? I wanted to be able to make a tremendous amount of money so that I could help family members that were experiencing hard times or in need, right? And I'm not going to get into any specifics here for the sake of anyone who might be listening to this and realize I might be talking about them. And if it is, then sorry, this is why I'm not saying any names. I've had instances in my life where friends, family, people that I care tremendous amounts for, where I had them as my why of doing better so that I could be able to be helpful to them and give to them. And I do that. I go and I do incredibly well, and I create and I generate a bunch of money and resources, and then I start to give to people, right? I start to help, I start to solve problems, and I start to do things for others. And what I start seeing happens is they start to resent me. Like, for real. They start resenting the fact that they need the help. They start resenting the fact that you're doing the thing for them. And then all of a sudden, one thing goes wrong and it doesn't maybe fit into their, idea of what it was or what you're supposed to be doing or what their expectations of you are. But then all of a sudden that gratitude or that altruistic thing that you were doing for somebody else becomes why they hate you and why they are angry at you and why they are resentful of you. And it was a huge eye opener for me, right? That can happen on the level of like friends and family. Okay, so let's put that aside. I had this concept in my head when I decided to start coaching and teaching people the thing that I was doing, how I made a bunch of money, and sharing this with people, that I thought, okay, I want to free people financially, and I want to be impactful in these guys' lives, and I want to help people at a young age get to a place where they're financially free and they can free their parents and free their loved ones and they can free their friends the way that I have, and then go back and bless their communities. And you know what? By doing that, I will myself get, I'll get more, I'll get recognition for it, I'll be loved for it, I'll be thanked for it, and all these things, and they'll appreciate so much the thing that I do. Well, here's another example of how that didn't work and hasn't really worked all the time. I'm not saying this is everything or every time, because many of you will hear this right now and kind of be shocked at it, but I'm going to share it anyways. So just recently, actually, funny enough, I was scrolling Facebook, and I seen a post, right? I see a post of an individual who spent, couple years learning from me, learning wholesaling the way that I do it, lead generation. It's a young cat, right? Doing well, and starts to create a business, finds his business partner in the community, finds his acquisitions people in the community, and starts just like really rocking and rolling and doing great. And this post, I like almost had tears in my eyes when I read it. He makes a post and he's like, I made over $1 million last year. Is incredible. I've been introduced to so many cool people in the process. I've met my best friends, my business partner, my team, all in this wonderful community and in this wonderful life. And then starts listing off everybody that he wanted to thank, right? And so, like, the laundry list was long. I mean, this guy went so far as to thank almost like, and he really didn't, but like he thanked like even Santa Claus in the post. Okay. Straight up, my name was nowhere to be seen. Again, when I saw it, I was like, oh, okay, it's all good. It's not about you, bro. Like, chill out, right? Doesn't matter. And anyhow, I still I'm like, yo, so proud of you. This is great. A little while later, somebody approaches me and says, hey, I would like to make some connections with people doing business in this specific market. And it clicks on to me. I'm like, hey, well, this person's doing business in this market. And so what do? I make a connection, right? I connect the dots and I'm like, hey, talk to this person. He's doing really great in this market and awesome, right? So when I make the connection, a little while later, I get a response back saying, hey, I reached out to this person, but he's like, he doesn't really say that, he has anything to do with you or like this thing. And I'm like, huh, interesting. So then I'm like, maybe there's not. And I go and I look and no, the business partner this guy has came from the curated community that I've spent, thousands of dollars and hours on building. Top acquisitions people are still coming from the same place. I'm sure many deals are coming from the same place, right? And so I'm taken aback by it. And so then I actually reach out super, super kindly. And I'm like, hey, man, I just reaching out. Hope everything is well with you and life and your business. It seems like you're doing great. I seen you, you crushed it last year. So proud of you. I sent somebody over to do business with you. And they responded with me where you had kind of said to them, you're not interested in it because of whatever reason. And I just wanted to know, was there something that happened? Like, are you upset for some reason? And even though the strategy that this has made this guy over $1 million in a year is one that came from me and all of the years of trial and error that I had to do to get there, the anger was from this spot. Hey, man, what, if I'm being honest with you, just to shoot it straight, I noticed that you would shout out like other people in the community more than me. Like you never shouted me out enough. So that's like what it is. I'm like, oh, cool. Awesome. Well, anyhow, just so you're aware, the reason why I shout out these other folks was because I had a contractual obligation because they were a Keegley franchise and I had to. But I get it. I totally get it. Anyhow, I can see how that might have upset you and whatnot, but hey, peace, love, and all the blessings in the world. Right. And so I was totally brokenhearted about it. And this was just recently, right? Because I'm sitting there thinking to myself, wow, like I really, truly, I was trying to make an impact on people's world. I'm trying to do well for people. I'm sharing with folks what has taken me, decades to uncover and learn. And that's the thing that this person's holding on to as to why they have resentment and anger towards me. And I thought, wow, okay. And I let it sit. I let it marinate in my heart and I let it marinate in my day. And I wanted to just figure it out for myself because again, I was putting all of my reasons why outside of myself, right? I was doing it for others. I want to see this guy win. I want to see her win. I want to see them win. I want to see this for my family. But then I thought about family members who resent me and are angry at me. And then I look and think of even the charitable organizations where I've donated hundreds of thousands of dollars. If 1 year I don't follow up with a check, I remember just recently I got an email from a person who represents one of these charitable organizations. I had decided to donate to a different charity this year. And because I didn't donate to that charity, I got a really scathing email saying how disappointed they were that I had pulled my donation and sent it somewhere else. And now when I saw that person in real life out in the world, they wouldn't even make eye contact with me. Right. And I've donated hundreds of thousands of dollars to an organization that this person's a part of. And I realized that, well, just recently, pretty much as of yesterday, that my whys have to be here. And so, look, as much as you are going to do things for others outside of yourself and for others, And believe me, it feels damn good to do it. I still love that gentleman who is angry at me for not giving him shine. I still love him very much, and I'm so grateful and happy that I had the opportunity to teach that person. And I know that that person's life is going to be blessed, and their children will be blessed, and they will have a ripple effect in others' lives, which is going to be positive and wonderful. I'm 100% grateful for the opportunity. But I had to really come to terms with that y'all are going to disappoint the hell out of me. For real. Right? I got to do it for this guy. I got to do it for me, for my betterment, for my soul, for my achievement, for my capacity to actualize the best version of me that I could be on this planet for myself. Because all of the other things are going to dissolve. And that's okay. That's absolutely okay. But it's a fact. And so I wanted to share that with you. So when you're determining your reasons why, have you in there. Have you in there. All right. Number 3, list out the scenes. What are the scenes that are going to play out when you were doing the thing, when you've achieved what you're trying to achieve, when you've hit that milestone, when you've made that money, when you've written the donation check, when you made the impact, and the person comes to you and says, "You changed my life." And guys, just so for you, that's not everybody, okay? Like I just gave you an example of one thing so that I could emphasize to you that you have to be included in those reasons why. We do too much for others. We do so much for other people, but we very rarely do it for ourselves. And I want you to add you to the equation. Okay, anyways, list out the scenes. And it's really important that you get specific about the scene. Okay, the scene in which it happens. Okay, so for instance, for me, the giving of my mom and dad the keys to their lake house that my sister and I bought for them, right? The feeling of being able to give my mother and father the keys to their own home that was paid off was like the most incredible feeling I can ever explain. And before we were able to do that, my sister and I had both thought about it and dreamt about it and visualized it. And then we were able to accomplish it. Right. And so who's there? What is present in that scene? Right. What are you wearing? What are the people that are around you wearing? Is there music involved? What are the words? What are the specifics of the scene? If there's a charity that you are connected to that you really want to impact, what is the scene? Are you at an awards ceremony? Are you at are you writing one of those big? Are you giving somebody one of those big corny checks? And is it like for $5 million to end human trafficking, or are you like, what is the scene? And get specific about the scene. Right? Feel the big corny check in your hands. Like, see the audience and see the people that are there, and who are the people beside you. The more specific that you get in those scenes, the more you energize those scenes, and that produces a quality inside of you that will actually help entangle you to that situation or that thing happening. And I've spoken about this in previous lives. So if you ever want to go back and refresh yourself on that entanglement that we can have in the manifestation process that we are doing and working on, it's important to have specifics of that scene, right? So even if it's a home that you are going to live in, it's your magical dream home, right? Like, how many bedrooms is it? What's the texture of the carpet? What type of kitchen do you have? Is there a specific wood grain that you use on the cabinets? What is the flooring type? Is it hardwood? Is it concrete? What are the specifics that are in that scene? And it has to be incredibly detailed for you to be able to actually bring that into your world, right? And energize that scene. Because when you bring energy to that scene and you connect it to yourself, then you now are getting into that stage of that quantum entanglement. And again, spoken about this in the past, but that right there is how you can create for yourself the opportunity of accomplishing that. Okay, 4. Now you have to link your emotions to those scenes. Now, why is it that we are super detailed in these scenes? Is because in order for us to exhibit an emotional change, an emotional response, we have to put ourselves there. We absolutely have to put ourselves there. And that emotion is what is now going to bring in the world of quantum physics and neuroscience together so that you can start to create pathways, right? Here's the thing. I'm going to ask everybody who's here a question, and some of you might be too young for this, possibly, but if you are of the age to remember, where were you on September 11th? Where were you on September 11th? I know exactly where I was. I'll tell you. I was standing in my girlfriend's living room at the time, and we were watching her television, and we seen the horror that was unfolding on the TV. And I can remember the layout of her living room. I can remember where her couch was. I even remember the patterns on the couch. I remember the color of the carpet. I remember the style of the television. It was one of those old wooden box TVs. I remember what I was wearing. I remember what she was wearing. And why is it that memory is so vivid? Why is it that memory is so vivid for myself? And so, some of you guys are writing in the chat here. I can remember. I know Pansy says I know exactly where I was. Someone was in prison at that time. My goodness. Sorry to hear that. Jennifer was giving birth to her son. Wow. That's also a super memorable thing. So that's dope. Dennis was ironing his clothes for his father's funeral. Dang, that's heavy. Sharon was putting together a cost estimate. I bet you she doesn't remember vividly remember any other cost estimates that she's done, but she sure as hell remembers that one. Dennis, I bet you don't remember all the times you've ironed clothes, but you remember that one time. KC says, I was at work walking into my processor's office and it was on her computer. Like, how often did you walk into that office? Do you remember any of those other times? Now, again, why is it that we remember? Because of the emotional tie that we have to it. We have a massive collective emotional response to the horror of September 11th. So that emotion that we generated in that moment is so strong that it crystallized that pathway, right? And then we get to see that happen over and over again. And again, that then becomes even more crystallized, right? And so, but that emotion is what brought us to all the detail. And so I know it's a little bit of a morbid example to use, but for yourselves, this is an example on how we can use something that was terribly painful from the past or from our lives and use that to generate incredible blessings for us in the future, right? So knowing that with a elevated or a highly charged emotion that we can remember details of a scene so vividly that the visualization becomes granular. Like like I've said, I remember the pattern on the couch of that girl, right? I remember the color of the carpet and the feeling of the carpet under my feet, right? I remember the dust on her television. She wasn't clean, but I remember the dust on her TV that was there. I remember everything of that moment, right? So when you are making these visualizations in your mind, do it with such intensity of emotion that you can memorize the scenes. And in that capacity, when we do that, we actually start to create that neural pathway. And that's what creates learning. Now, the only reason why you know exactly where you were on that time during September 11th is a neural pathway was formed and it was crystallized. And that's the reason why. That emotional state, that scene, that time with all of that stimulus together, it just became a fold in the brain. And you can do that for everything. You can do that for your future blessings. You can do that for the impact that you want to make in society. You can do that for that huge donation that you want to write to end that or to further that cause that you're so in love with. You can do that for the family member that you so deeply care about and want to help until they hate you. But again, that you can do that so deeply in that moment, so vividly, that it creates that neural pathway, that creates that link. Because you need that link for number 5, which is crystallizing the neural pathway. We need to make it rigid. And the only way that we crystallize it and make it rigid is by repetition. We beat it in there over and over and over and over again. Just like a professional basketball player who, Stephen Curry, he can make, 3 point. He's got the most 3 points than any other player. Why? Because of how many times he's practiced that shot, right? He can shoot that shot, let it go, turn around, walk away before the ball is in the net, and he knows that when it's going to go in the net because his neurons, his muscle memory, all of it is so crystallized that he knows when that is going to happen. He knows exactly the angles, the muscle flexure, all of the things that are necessary in order for that shot to make it and to get done. He knows it by heart. By heart. And you can do the same thing. You can know these feelings, you can know these scenes by heart. And when you do end up knowing them by heart, you energize the scene, you energize the action, and you energize your life in it. Now, I hope that when you're doing these things for yourself, and for others, as again, that you do take into consideration the fact that that in doing these energized activities, when you bring that level of enthusiasm to whatever it is you're doing, wholesaling, creative finance deals, co-living deals, fixing and flipping, hair, I don't care what it is that you're doing in the world, right? That when you bring this level of energy to your day, to your action, to your activity, that's what gets you to the top. That's what makes you the best. And I want that for everybody here. And what I did learn, for all intents and purposes, by some of the disappointment that I've seen, is that I want that for me too. And I hope that you want it for yourselves as well. If for a while it needs to be outside of yourself because society is beating it into us that to want for us and to live for ourselves and to really be selfish at some level is wrong. Well, until you realize that it's actually the rightest thing that you can do, you'll get there. But until then, anchor it outside of you, live for them, and then one day you'll get to live for you. Thank you guys for giving me your heart, your eyes, and your attention on this beautiful Sunday. I love you, and I love me too. Take care. Have a great rest of your day. And if you haven't already done this, please like this video. Just do the extra work and go click on it. And if this resonated with you and if it meant something to you, and if you'd like to share this with a friend, please do so. It helps the channel. It helps me grow, and I appreciate it tremendously. Take care.